First Corinthians chapter 10, verses 1 through 6 read, Moreover, brethren, I do not want you to be unaware that all our fathers were under the cloud, all passed through the sea, all were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea, all ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. But with most of them God was not well pleased, for their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Now these things became our examples, to the intent that we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. So we've been studying this for a couple days, and just walking through 1 Corinthians 7 through 13. But this was all because I flipped to 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and just was reading in there. That also carried me over into Exodus, and I just wanted to speak about it and elaborate a little bit. So Paul is writing to the Corinth church. He had set up as a father, and he was speaking to them as sons and daughters. He says over in chapter 9 in verses 2, if I am not an apostle to others, yet doubtless I am to you, for you, talking to the Corinth church, are the seal of my apostleship in the Lord. So Paul was their apostle. Paul had brought them the gospel. Paul was supplying their spiritual needs. Paul was supplying them food and water by the way he preached and taught the gospel, how he lived. He said to imitate me as I live, because I live as Christ lives. And that's later on in chapter 10, all the way in 33. It says, just as I also please all men in all things, not seeking my own profit, but the profit of many, that they may be saved. Imitate me just as I also imitate Christ. So these things he's saying as an example. Learn from my example, because my example is to live as Christ. And for me to live as Christ and to die is gain. So moreover, brethren, I do not want you to be unaware that all our fathers were under the cloud. And so there's intentionality behind his teaching of warning. I want to warn you. I want to help you to understand. I want you to have knowledge in what I'm telling to you, that all of our fathers were under the cloud. And the cloud there is going to be found in Exodus 3 Exodus 13 and Exodus 14. I'm probably going to go there and do some studying because all that stuff is good. But this cloud was a covering for them as they left Egypt. The cloud was there during the day, and the fire was there during the night for the light of for them in the dark, and for a covering from the heat during the day. All passed through the sea. This is the Red Sea, right? So the cloud and the fire brought them to the Red Sea. And then it says all were baptized. So all were under the cloud, all passed through the sea, all were baptized into Moses, into the cloud and in the sea. So the cloud and the fire brought them to the Red Sea. They walked through the Red Sea on dry ground. And this was how Paul is making this an analogy or a allegory or imagery. They were baptized into Moses. Moses led them, right? Remember, Moses was to Aaron as God, as Moses was to God, right? So God and Moses, right? So God the Father and the Son Jesus, we are all baptized into Jesus, is what Paul is getting at. Verse 2, we all of their fathers in verse 1 were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and all ate the same spiritual food. This is the manna that fell down from heaven. This is going to be found in Exodus 16 and 17. This in verse 4, all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. But with most of them God was not well pleased, for their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Okay, Josh, so what is the point in all of this? Why are we talking about this? Why did Paul feel the urgency to tell them, to warn them, that they would not be unaware of the brethren that went through the cloud, who passed through the sea, who were baptized to Moses, who ate the spiritual food, who drank from the spiritual rock, and the rock that they drank from was Christ? Here you are, brethren, at Corinth, that you have been baptized unto Jesus, right? You have been given the broken body and the spilt blood. You have ate of the spiritual food. You have drank from the spiritual rock. Jesus said at the well that he is the living well, and I have living water, and if you drink from me, you will never thirst again. This was what the Israelites got an opportunity to partake of in the wilderness, leaving Egypt. But with most of them, God was not well pleased. So the only way that we can please God, Hebrews says, is if we believe God exists and we believe that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. They had an opportunity. Brother, and I don't want you to be unaware that your fathers had an opportunity to believe God and to diligently seek him in the wilderness. I don't want you to be unaware that because God was not well pleased with them, and this is how we know, for their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Verse 6, now these things became our example, to the intent that we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. So all of our fathers were under the cloud. They passed through the sea. They were baptized into Moses through in the cloud and in the sea. They ate from the same spiritual food. They drank from the same spiritual rock. That spiritual rock was Christ. But not all of them were well pleasing to God, for their bodies were killed in the wilderness. Now these things. So what did they do? Why were they not well pleasing to God? They did not walk in faith, but they lusted after the things that they were lusting after in Egypt. This was the idea, to circumcise the heart from the foreign gods and idols in which they served in Egypt. 400 to 450 years, give or take. There's a couple different references of how long they were in Egypt. I think it was 420 or 450. I can't exactly remember off the top of my head, but so that many years, that many generations, how they fell away from God. Not all of them. Just like today, how many people claim to be Christians, but not all are Christians? I would say the majority are not Christians, but us who are the true body of Christ, all their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. We are the body. They were the body, the spiritual and fleshly body of Christ coming out of Egypt. And if you go back and read in Exodus, all of these things are mentioned in the Old Testament. That the angel of the Lord went before them. The angel of the Lord led them. The angel of the Lord spoke with them and directed them and kept them. It's the angel of the Lord. That's Old Testament. The New Testament, that spiritual rock that was in the Old Testament, was Christ. And so, okay, what for us today? I do not want you, brethren, to be unaware. I'm going to skip down to verse 6. I do not want you to be unaware that these things became our examples with the intent, right? To show us, to be an example to us, that we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. So today, what are we lusting after? What are we desiring to take the place of God in our lives? Is there anything? Have we even asked the Lord to expose our heart, to show our hearts? Because if these children of Israel who saw the 10 plagues are coming to a place, that they're cornered. Remember the Pharaoh, God hardened his heart to chase after the children of Israel. He's got them pinned up between the army of Pharaoh and the Red Sea. The pillar of cloud that went before them by day went behind the children of Israel, and it was darkness unto the Pharaoh and his army, but the pillar of fire was the light before them that was leading them, that was guiding and giving them light during the day and heat at night. It was providing for them the things that they needed. They see all of these things, but yet they did not search their heart to see what it was that they were trusting in. We see these things of salvation. We see these things of the fruit of the Spirit. We see people delivered. We see people set free. We see people walking by faith and not by sight. We see these people. We have seen and experienced for ourselves the goodness of God, just like the Israelites did. But they turned away from their God because of the things that they decided to lust after in their hearts. And so Paul is warning the church in Corinth that we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted, because God was not pleased with them when they did that. And because of that, their reward was that they were killed in the wilderness. So as you're in your wilderness journey and you're trying to make it to the promised land, God is going to keep you. God is going to protect you. But along the way, God is going to test you. I would encourage you on today to examine your heart and to ask the Lord to reveal anything that is counter to His word, counter to the character of Christ, counter to what He has commanded. And to see what it is, Lord, show me what is filling up my heart if it is not you. Because those things, if it's not Christ, are not pleasing to God. And I do not, just like Christ does not, God does not desire for you to die in the wilderness, but desires to bring you into the promised land that is flowing with milk and honey. So just be encouraged on today. Be blessed.